Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Football Chuggu Podcast. My name is Thomas Durning, and today I'm joined by my co-host, Pearse McLaughlin. Hello, Pearse.
Hello, how you doing?
Also on today's podcast, we also have Liam Doherty joining us. Hello, Liam.
How's it going, guys?
Yeah. So on today's podcast, we'll be reacting to Ange Postecoglou leaving Celtic to join Tottenham Hotspur, reacting to both the FA Cup final and Scottish Cup finals, reacting to Karim Benzema leaving Real Madrid, previewing this weekend's Champions League final, and at the end of the podcast, Pearse will be giving a rundown of all the latest Asian football news. So coming up next, we will be reacting to Ange Postecoglou's Celtic departure. So on Tuesday, the 6th of June, Tottenham announced Ange Postecoglou as their new manager. This brings Postecoglou's two-year journey at Celtic to an end, and during his tenure, he won 5 trophies at Celtic, which included 2 league titles, 2 League Cup wins, and 1 Scottish Cup win. Postecoglou is now the first Australian to ever manage in the Premier League. So Pearse, starting with you, what is your reaction to Ange Postecoglou leaving Celtic and joining Tottenham?
I don't think it was a bit of a shock the last couple of weeks because you've seen his demeanour, like he was a bit relaxed. Then obviously with that meeting a few weeks ago with Dermot Desmond was pitched by Ange Postecoglou at Celtic inside Celtic Park, and Dermot Desmond's never usually at Celtic Park unless it's something serious. And we all thought it would be maybe discussed a new contract. But obviously he's thinking pastors new, and you could see he was 1 foot out the door even before the cup final. And but it is the perfect way to go at the end of the season, not midway during the season like Brendan Rodgers. But power to him, it was a fantastic move for him. Obviously Tottenham are not in Europe this season, but you've got a bigger budget. You've got probably the most competitive league in the world, and the chance to manage some world class players. Yeah, so that's my overall reaction to it. To be honest,
What be yourself, Liam?
I think it's probably natural for a manager that he's obviously not a Celtic fan, so you look at his journey, everything he talks about, his personal goals. It's probably natural, expected, and it's to a certain extent understandable because Spurs are a big team. You even think about after Spurs, he's probably not going to get a job as big as that because who's he going to go to above them in the league? So it is a big job. I think the only thing that a lot of the fans are annoyed about is a few of his quotes that he's dished out the last couple of years, saying, as long as the club want me here, I'll be here, and all the rest of it. So I think the fan base are entitled to feel a bit annoyed because, in a sense, you think, why would you say that? You would just go there, get a job done, because it is a job at the end of the day, and then move on. So I think without the quotes, it's a wee bit less annoying for Celtic fans. But like I say, it is understandable, and can't really blame the guy.
Yeah, I had a funny feeling. Obviously the news broke. I think it was last week. After Tottenham, they missed out on the Feyenoord manager, so they switched their attention to Postecoglou. So when the news broke last week that it looked like after Celtic's match on Saturday that Tottenham were going to talk to him, I kind of knew that from then it was he was going to take it. Obviously it's it's a really good story for him. You know, let's be honest. I think 3 years ago, no one in Europe really knew him. Celtic fans didn't know him when he first came to Celtic. Um, you know, and I don't think he would have. I don't think he would have said 3 years ago that he would in 3 years' time he'd end up at Tottenham. One of the biggest clubs in Europe, and it's a brilliant opportunity for him. And obviously, the first Australian to ever manage the Premier League. A bit of history there as well. So, as Celtic fans will be disappointed, but it's a brilliant opportunity for him. So, just obviously touching on Postecoglou, so he's obviously known for the style of football, the way he wants to play. So Pearse, how do you think that'll fit in at Tottenham? Do you think he'll do well?
With the players he's got at disposal at the moment, absolutely not. He needs a major rebuild, which like he done at Celtic in his first season. Because you look at the team, and obviously there's was it talk of Hugo Lloris wanting to go. There's somebody else needs a goalkeeper. The Tottenham defence is far too leaky for my liking. Obviously they've got world class talent up front, but you'd probably say apart from the forward line, the whole team probably needs a rejig. So it's a massive rebuilding job for him. And obviously Tottenham fans weren't too happy about the reaction. Now they're kind of on board that they've got it appointed. But Tottenham are quite cutthroat because what was it, 2 seasons ago that Nuno Espirito Santo won manager of the month for the first month, and then he was sacked the next month. And obviously they've had quite pragmatic coaches in Jose Mourinho and Antonio Conte, so it's a completely different style of football. And obviously you never know what's going to happen with Harry Kane. Tottenham want to keep him. He wants to go. It's going to be a big ask for him. I think he'll struggle this season. But if he gets the right players in and he gets off to a good start, then you never know.
What about yourself, Liam? How do you think Postecoglou will do at Tottenham?
I've came to the conclusion that in football, I think it's just too hard to predict because when he was coming to Celtic, nobody gave him a chance. Spurs fans aren't giving him a chance. The turnover of players at during his time at Celtic, what he's won, obviously, the style of football. You've got to give him, a really good chance of doing well at Spurs. But I know it might sound a bit silly because he's done it for 2 years now at Celtic. But was that sort of not a one-off? But what I'm meaning is there's so many variables. So the league's different, the team's different, the calibre of players different, the money's different. So can he go down there and do it again? And I just think it's so hard to call. But like I say, you've got to give him a chance because he's done it at Celtic for 2 years. So
yeah, he's definitely going to have to be given time there. Tottenham have come off a really difficult season. I actually think it's a good fit. Tottenham, since Pochettino's left, they've went down a different route in terms of bringing in managers that don't necessarily play an attacking style of play. They kind of want to set up in a more kind of defensive style and try and win games that kind of way. But with Postecoglou coming into Tottenham, it's clear that Tottenham want to get back to that attacking style of football. Taking the game to teams, and obviously that's what Postecoglou does. He believes in his philosophy so much. He's going to have to get back in the summer. Daniel Levy's going to have to, trust them and the players he wants to bring in. But I think if he's given time there, Tottenham aren't known for giving managers time. But if he gets a little bit more time there and gets his philosophy, he gets into the players. I think that could end up being, it's also hard to predict, but it could go down really well. It could go down really well at Tottenham for him.
That's the thing as well. It's about time because at Celtic, I think he only won 2 or 3 his first 7 league games, and he did come in quite late after the Eddie Howe saga. But he started the season without some of his own players. Edward was still playing up front, so it took him time here, and that's the thing. Will he get the same amount of time down there? The only difference, in my opinion, from when it was being rumoured to go down there is that it was a 2-year deal. Now it's 4. So is he going to be given time? That kind of sounds like he will. So it's just hard to predict.
What I will say is that, Postecoglou, the difference between him and Mourinho and Conte is I feel that when Tottenham would lose a game, Mourinho and Conte would really go, they would bring themselves really down. They would take it too much. But I think what Postecoglou is different to them too is that even if it isn't starting well, he won't panic. He'll just stick to what he believes in. Knowing that if he sees improvement, he'll not panic. And I think that might, kind of connect with the Tottenham fans because, well, let's be honest, Tottenham are in kind of a disconnect at the moment with their fans and their team. And I think Postecoglou, what I think he's really good at is he's good at bringing everyone together. He did it at Celtic. I know it's a different kind of job, but there was a big disconnect at Celtic with the fans and the team. And Postecoglou came in, and I think from the kind of start when he came in, slowly but surely the connection was getting better and better and better. And that now just kind of leads me on to my next question. Pearse, obviously he's now left Celtic. So what position do you think he's left Celtic in? Is that a good place or is that a bad place?
I think he's left Celtic in a very good place. Just on the back of a treble. Kind of leaves some sour taste in the fans' mouth of Celtic, because obviously it was only a couple of days after the treble triumph, and you could see with his on-pitch celebration, like he was really taking in the fans because he knew this would be his last time in front of them. Celtic fans loved him. He loved them, but I think it was just a natural progression. He even said himself, if players don't want to be there, he's not going to stand in the way. And I think he's seen the fact as well. He's 58 years old, and it's a massive payday, and you can't really turn it down. It's life-changing money. And the fact is to go manage in the Premier League, like you said, you touched on it earlier, it's the first Australian to manage the Premier League. I think he's left Celtic in a great position because Celtic have now got all summer and they've got early summer as well to try to get a new manager in place. So I'm pretty sure the search should be ongoing at the moment, with candidates applying for the job, because like, who wouldn't want to take over that position? The fact you've got Champions League football as well, group stage football, and you're on a side that's just won a treble. But I think the most important thing is that for Celtic's point of view is to try to keep a hold of their most key players, because a lot of the teams down south and abroad will be trying to kind of pinch players. Especially, you'd probably suggest that usually when managers move jobs, they usually take players they know with them. Do you kind of feel that Ange would try to take like Kyogo, Carter Vickers, Ittihad, like the pure spine of Celtic's side? Because that's what they need, to be honest. Because if they lose Kane, Kyogo's the perfect replacement, and then you've got Carter Vickers, who's previously at Tottenham. He never made the grade there, but how solid has he been for Ange in the last 2 seasons? So, yeah, he's left Celtic in a great position, but it just remains to be seen who the potential candidates might be. But, I think he's left Celtic in a very good position.
And Liam, what do you think?
I think he's left Celtic in a really helpful position. Financially, just look at the last... I'm not going to kid on, I know it's in Celtic's bank because nobody does, but the last couple of seasons qualifying for Champions League. The players that were sold before he came in, I know it wasn't down to him, but it was part of his era in a sense. Winning trophies, the assets that the team have, the club have, they could sell players for a lot of money. So he's the club have done a full 180 since he's been here. And I just think that people are saying Rodgers never took players when he left, but the difference for me is Rodgers had experience in the Premier League before, and I don't think his system was as particular as Ange's. Ange's the repetitive, particular with his system, and he probably trusted himself to bring in players at Tottenham from different clubs to fit his system, but I think if he knows Kyogo, Hatate, Carter Vickers can play in that system, he might bank on them, because it is a big step up to the Premier League, so you never know. So it just really depends how healthy he's left it. If players leave and follow him, if we get a manager quicker. I think Celtic last summer made their first couple of signings on the 1st of July. So think about it, it's only a few weeks away. So I know they need to take time to bring in the right guy, but they kind of need to be quick about it as well, because especially if players are following Ange, signings need to be made, but the manager needs to come in and assess the squad first. So we'll see.
Yeah, I agree with you both. A really good position. Back off with a treble. Champions League football guaranteed next season. The squads, there's no rebuild or anything with the squad. The squad's looking really healthy. So a really good position he's left Celtic in. So, lastly, Pearse, I'll start with you. What next for Celtic? Where does Celtic? What manager? Obviously, Celtic are looking now for a manager. Where do they look? Who do they look to, and what kind of style do they look to?
They can look far and wide because, like Liam touched on earlier, like, probably no one heard of Ange Postecoglou in Europe 2, 3 years ago, and he turned out to a massive success. But it has to be someone in the same sort of mould, someone that is exciting, wants to play attacking football, and doesn't fear anyone, especially in Europe. You've seen Real Madrid this season at Parkhead for about 60 minutes. They struggled, and that's exciting. Although Real Madrid ran out comfortable 3-0 winners in the end, but to see them domestically be so successful and in Europe just be exciting to watch. I think that's what the Celtic hierarchy will be looking to appoint a manager that's young, hungry, wants to play attacking football, always in the front foot, and you just pick up from where Ange left Celtic.
And yourself, Liam, what next for Celtic?
I totally agree with the type of guy that needs to come in, as Pearse was saying there. A lot of the fans are talking about get somebody in that's good for Europe, but as bad as it sounds, I just feel like that would need to be somebody that's going to be here for a number of years. Like Ange said, they need to be there every year to work on European performances. And I would, is there going to be a manager that's going to stay at Celtic for 4 or 5 years? So I think first things first is getting somebody in that can continue domestically. And all the candidates in the list, I said Rodgers just because Ange was a risk, and as a football fan, I like clubs making those types of risks. But at the time, Celtic didn't really have a lot else to lose after the 10-in-a-row season. So I think now they might have some reservations about making those types of risky signings again because they do have more to lose. Beale's already had a number of months to get his style implemented. He's got his own signings now, so Rangers are ahead of Celtic in that sense. So I think first things first is get somebody in that is going to perform domestically. And the other thing about Rodgers as well is I think he'll come in and it won't be compared to Ange as much as the other candidates, which takes so much pressure off the club because he's actually done better than Ange at Celtic. He's got his own legacy. I know he left in bad terms and a lot of fans won't like that, but he'll come in and he'll know he can do a job. So that's why I say Rodgers.
Yeah, Celtic definitely don't need to panic. They might not have been expecting for Postecoglou to leave, but they don't need to panic because it's not as if Celtic have Champions League qualifiers coming up where they need to get a manager in really quickly for these games that are going to be coming up. The summer is they've got a little bit of time until the summer starts for them. I do agree with Pearse in terms of Celtic searching far and wide for managers. I think people do necessarily just go for names that are, based in Europe, but there is lots of managers that not a lot of people know about. We never knew anything about Postecoglou that are far and wide around the world. But in terms of a style, I definitely think Celtic have to go down similar to the way Postecoglou played. Because you've got to remember as well, a lot of these players that are in the Celtic squad now were signed for that specific reason. But it's going to be an interesting kind of couple of weeks to see where Celtic go in terms of looking for managers. I don't expect Celtic to appoint anyone anytime soon. They'll probably take their time now. But let's see what happens. So we will now move on to reacting to last weekend's FA Cup and Scottish Cup finals. So on Saturday, the 3rd of June, Manchester City defeated Manchester United 2-1 to claim the FA Cup trophy for the 7th time. So Pearse, starting off with you, what is your reaction to Manchester City winning the FA Cup?
Just serial winners, that's just what it is. What was it, 15 seconds he scored the first goal? Gundogan again, kind of absolute clutch towards the end of the season. I don't know how many seasons he's done that in a row now, maybe 3 or 4. Because it was last season, Aston Villa in the final day got 2 goals to win the title. Now, 15 seconds, he got a left foot volley, which was an absolute corker right in the top right hand corner. And then the second one was a bit of a scuff, but got it over the line. But Manchester United just never looked like really threatening Man City. Man City just total control. Although the game was 1-2-1, but I do feel as if the scoreline was a lot more comfortable than what it suggested. And they'll be on course for a treble.
What about yourself, Liam? What's your reaction?
No surprises at all. I said that last time as well. I think I never expected the goal to come that early, and I never expected Man United to get back into it, which they've done well to do. But like Pearse said, it was Man City's game, and it was quite comfortable in the end.
Yeah, I'd agree. Man City I think they were deserved winners. They were in total control. And you know, the quickest goal in an FA Cup final history. You know, and I think when that goal went in, I think a lot of people could kind of see where the game was going. So they were in total control the whole match, and they totally deserved to win. So the Scottish Cup final was played later on in the day, on the same day, which was Saturday the 3rd of June. And Celtic defeated Inverness Caledonian Thistle 3-1 to claim a world record 8th domestic treble. So Pearse, what is your reaction to Celtic winning the Scottish Cup?
Fantastic achievement. World record 8th treble. I think that's what 5 trebles in the last 7 seasons. It's remarkable success. The game in the first half was a bit lethargic. There wasn't really many chances, and then the movement for the first goal by Kyogo and the finish was outstanding. And I think Kyogo for a hash, he just loves handing, because anytime he plays, he just seems to score. Even if he's half fit, or even half a chance, but for most people that isn't even a chance. Because how many times do you get across your marker and then just connect with it wrong and just balloon it over the bar? But the way he just gets his foot wrapped around it, top right hand corner. And then Celtic looked comfortable at 2-0. And then Inverness got a goal back into it. And then obviously towards the end, Celtic made it a bit more comfortable with Jota at the end. But no, fantastic achievement. Fully deserved winners. I don't think they were really at their sparkling best. But Inverness gave a right good go at it, and they deserve to be finalists. Inverness, I think it's been a fairy tale story for them. And even getting to a final and even scoring a goal in a final against Celtic is a remarkable achievement in itself for them. But I do think one thing I would have to say though is a 5:30 kickoff at the Scottish Cup, which is one of the oldest competitions in club football, just to accommodate the TV for the FA Cup final is a disgrace, in my opinion. It should be a 3 o'clock kickoff for the penultimate Scottish Cup final. It shouldn't really matter about what they do down south, because the showpiece event in Scotland should always be a 3 o'clock kickoff at Hampden.
Yep. Liam, what's your reaction to Celtic winning the Scottish Cup?
Yeah, some achievement, and a lot of people are writing Inverness off straight away, but that doesn't take away from Celtic getting out and doing the job. And Inverness done well to get a goal and to get to the final. But eight trebles is some achievement. And like Pearse was saying about the kickoff, I don't know how people can be surprised that Ange got to Spurs when the authorities up here, SFA, are changing the time of the Scottish Cup final to suit England. So they need to get their priorities in check, I think, because I would watch the Manchester derby 100%, and I know there's fans out there who want to Celtic or Inverness fans that would rather the time be changed, but it's making a mockery of the Scottish game. And what chance have you got to keep managers and players if that's happening for your own governing body? So yeah.
As you both said there about an achievement, and a brilliant achievement, totally deserved, and totally deserved on the day. The Celtic were in total control of the match. it wasn't the best match to watch. I felt it was kind of a typical final where, it was quite nervy. Both teams were, it was kind of end of season. It felt that both teams were kind of playing like the season was ending. Um, you know, so Celtic were in total control. Inverness, you know, they got to go back. I think Celtic kind of switched off a little bit, but in that period. But yeah, totally deserved. And I totally get what you're saying about the kickoff time. Especially for the Inverness Caledonian Thistle fans, trying to get home. That would have made it more difficult for them because obviously they're quite far away from where the final was held in Glasgow. So fair play to them from making their way down to Glasgow and making their way back up. Although the result didn't go for them. So we will now move on to reacting to Karim Benzema leaving Real Madrid. So on Sunday, the 14th of June, Real Madrid announced that striker Karim Benzema will be leaving their club. So Benzema leaves Real Madrid to join Saudi Arabian club Al Ittihad, and he will earn a $200 million salary per season. So starting off with you, Pearse, what is your reaction to Benzema leaving Real Madrid to join Al Ittihad?
It's the end of an era. 14 years. He arrived as a 21-year-old pup, and he leaves a mature legend at the club. His record is 354 goals in 648 games, only second behind Cristiano Ronaldo. The fact is he scored more goals than Raul, Di Stefano, Puskas, Hugo Sanchez, just legends of the game. But the fact is, like, people years ago just he was so underappreciated. It's only in the last couple of seasons he's been truly appreciated by everyone in the world. And you don't get recalled by France at the age of 33, 34 for the national team if you're not scoring goals on a regular basis. And the fact is, he played second fiddle to Ronaldo because he knew he would win trophies. It's part of that successful era where it was a three-peat of the Champions League. And then obviously he's won 5 Champions Leagues himself. The one last season was, I think, stuffy fairy tales because the fact is we're written off every round. What as if they're dead and buried. He was the main man. And then I think this season it took his toll. Had all in niggler injuries, but he still managed to score 30 goals this season in all competitions. And like you said, going to Saudi Arabia, £85 million a year in wages, tax free, for 3 years. At 34 year age, he's turning 35 later on in the year. I don't think you can really turn it down, and that is due to family reasons because he's basically setting future Benzema's up for life.
Yep. Liam, what is your reaction?
Yeah, I think he's a legend of the game for Madrid. It's hard to think that he's been there for 14 years because, like Pearse said, he only really started hearing about him a few years ago. And maybe that is because Ronaldo was there and he was playing second fiddle. But he's definitely earned the chance to go there and get that money. And I kind of think that last year would have been a nice time for him to leave, a good send off. Obviously, they failed to win the league this year in the Champions League, so it might have been better for him to leave last year. But that doesn't take away anything that he's done for the club. And in terms of going to Saudi Arabia, I think I read somewhere that by the time he goes to the toilet and comes back out, he's £3 richer, so he can't really complain with that. And a lot of people might look down on the money that's involved. Kind of like when PSG started getting money and things, a lot of people disagreed with it. But whether you think it's right or wrong, they're getting spoken about, and there's so many players getting linked now and going away there, so it's working. But yeah, he's a legend, and he'll be remembered, I'm sure.
Yeah, he leaves a brilliant legacy. Second time, all-time scorer, countless trophies. It's quite weird because I actually do vaguely remember the day he did sign for Real Madrid. Obviously that summer they signed a host of top players. I wasn't really. I wasn't sure if he would. Well, absolutely didn't expect him to come out and create a legacy like he has at Real Madrid. But I think he has deserved to kind of decide where he wants to take his career. Uh, the money. We both touched on the money there. The money is life changing, and although football is, it's like a personal thing. Sometimes you've got to take into account um, footballers' families, and the money that they'll be earning in Saudi Arabia is life changing for him. And as Pearse said, it sets his children up for the rest of his life. So no, a brilliant legacy leaves, and just touching on the club he's going to. So we're starting to notice a trend of players leaving Europe to join clubs in Saudi Arabia. So Pearse, do you think football in Saudi Arabia is fast becoming a more global force?
Yeah, it's the Cristiano Ronaldo effect, to be honest, because he's the first one. It was similar to what David Beckham done in MLS, put them on the map. So now you've got Benzema joined. He's at another club. Potentially Kante going as well. They're wanting Ramos, Busquets. They're wanting Lionel Messi. So if they can get all these world class players, then it's going to put the league on the map. And it's going to be everybody's going to have all eyes on it, because if you have Ronaldo and Messi in the same league, Karim Benzema, Kante, the players I mentioned, and obviously they're Saudi Arabia's hoping it then improves the quality of the Saudi Arabian players in the league as well, playing and training with these world class players. They may not be at the peak of their powers, but they have the experience. They've still the quality. They may not have the legs, but they have that knowledge of the game, and they can help young players as well. So it can only benefit them. But we've seen this with China about 10 years ago. It never quite worked out. Putting massive debt, clubs of them went under. And it was a mass exodus of players' wages, especially one that comes to mind was Carlos Tevez. Disastrous. He was there for like a year. He was basically, I think it was on 850 grand a week. And he was always injured. He was travelling, and he was scrutinised, and never got to the levels he was at, because this money just doesn't motivate you, because you're not really there for the love of the game. You're there for the moolah at the end of the day. So they kind of need to tread on fine water, Saudi Arabia, in terms of that aspect of it. But it's exciting times for Saudi Arabia, and I think it's going to be interesting to watch to see how many big stars move there. But I think this is just the start of the mass exodus of players leaving Europe and then going to Saudi Arabia to play.
What about yourself, Liam?
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to help get a lot of attention. I mean, I've paid more attention to Saudi Arabia in the last 2 months than I have in my whole life. So it definitely works, like I said earlier. And if we get all these players, like Pearse said, there is a risk because of the money. So the players aren't going to really be performing to get a move to earn more money, because they're already getting it. So it's a bit of a risk, but it's definitely going to attract attention, which I think that's kind of all they care about. And there was a few months ago, actually seen Ronaldo play a game, and he looked really unhappy, and then his team never won the league. And I was thinking, I wonder if he thinks he's made a mistake here. But then when you think about all the players going there now, he's probably happy that he's went and stuck it out, and he's going to be joined by all these players, and it might change his opinion of it as well. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, it's a great marketing move from Saudi Arabia, getting these players to come in, these top star players. Obviously, what Pearse said, I think Ronaldo was kind of the domino effect for it. I think he was the first kind of star player to make the move to Saudi Arabia. I won't lie, I think the money side of it makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable, because you don't want a situation, Saudi Arabia because football there's a massive sport, and you don't want a situation where players are coming to the clubs and they're not really motivated to win. They're just kind of there for the money. You don't want that situation, because they want their football to grow. And, Ronaldo has said recently that this could be, he thinks it's going to be a top 5 league in the world in the future. And, I think it has the potential. They are a very wealthy nation. I think the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, they're really interested in football, and they're starting to invest a lot more into the Saudi Arabian clubs. But the only side to it I feel uncomfortable with is the money, because at the end of the day, obviously it's up to these players if they want to go for the money, but you don't want to see a situation where these players go and they're not really putting a show on for the fans. They're not really interested. So it's definitely interesting to see what happens in the future with football in Saudi Arabia. So yeah. So coming up next, we will be previewing this weekend's Champions League final. So on Saturday, the 10th of June, Manchester City will play Inter Milan in the Champions League final. Manchester City are going into this match trying to claim their first ever Champions League trophy and also win the treble. And Inter Milan are coming into this final trying to claim their 4th Champions League trophy. So starting off with you, Pearse, what is your thoughts about this weekend's upcoming Champions League final?
It's the Champions League final, no matter who's in the final. It's watched around the world globally. It's always the most exciting game to watch because there's so much at stake. And for me, it's the greatest club competition. And obviously the fact there's going to be a guaranteed new winner this year, because obviously Man City absolutely dismantled Real Madrid. But I do think both teams are there on merit. It's two contrasting styles. Man City just attack. So much quality bench as well as starting lineup. And then also you've got the other side of it where Inter Milan are just so solid at the back. Don't concede a lot of goals. They'll be playing for set pieces, but they've also got quality attack when they do get forward. So it's an interesting matchup. And I do think it's so hard to call. You probably bookie's favourite, you probably back Manchester City to go and win the treble, but you can never forget about history in this competition, and Man City have got a history of losing big games in this competition. So maybe the biggest hurdle is getting over their own mindset, because the fact is Inter Milan are a proven European side, and I don't think you should write them off.
What about yourself, Liam?
Well, I said Man City would win the Champions League before he even started this year, so they keep getting so close and end up not winning it. I think this year will be different. I don't think it'll be an easy game. I don't think I'm going to say Man City will demolish Inter, but I think they'll win it, and it will be a good game.
Yep. So I really look forward to this weekend's match. I feel both teams are in really good. They're in really good moments. Obviously Man City are just coming off an FA Cup win, and obviously also a Premier League win. Inter Milan, it has been a bit of a difficult season for them, but I think they've picked up recently. In the league, they finished really strongly, and obviously they're in the final. They're going to be really, really up for it. Obviously, both teams play a very different way of playing, so it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. Obviously, Man City will have more of the ball. Inter Milan will play that Italian style of defending and trying to hit them in the counter attack. So I think it's set up to be a really good game, a really interesting game. I do think Man City will win. I just think on the day they'll have a bit too much quality for Inter Milan. But Pearse said it about the history. You can't rule out history. Inter Milan have got history in this competition. They know how to win it. So definitely going to be an interesting game. So I just wanted to ask, starting off with you, Pearse. Obviously, if Manchester City win the Champions League this weekend, that'll be them win the treble. So if that does happen, do you think they are the best team of all time?
In just in England or the whole world?
The whole world?
Absolutely not. I think the probably greatest side is probably Real Madrid because they've won the most Champions Leagues, and that is the greatest competition in club football. And I don't think they're better than probably what Manchester United is. The Busby Babes, you've got the Treble on the side of '99, and then you've also got the Lisbon Lions in 1967, won every competition they entered, and it was a Scottish team. And the fact is, the money that Man City have spent in their squads, you probably no other side has had that amount of money to spend. So I don't think you can classify them as one of the best. A brilliant team, absolutely. What they've done is phenomenal, and obviously they've got probably arguably one of the best managers of all time as well. So put that together, the best players, the best manager. It's not really a surprise. And it's took them a while to get to a Champions League final and potentially win it. So I wouldn't class them as one of the greatest sides of all time. Absolutely not.
What about you, Liam?
I think they will be classed as one of the greatest sides of all time, or the greatest side of all time, by certain people, because you look at, as Pearse was saying, Real Madrid have won the most amount of European trophies, Champions Leagues. So they're not the best team in history in that sense. But then you could say they play a better style of football than Real Madrid, so they are in that sense. But for me, I think his Pep's team at Barcelona is probably the best I've ever seen. And the only reason I would suggest this team will be made out to be the best team in history is because they're English. I don't know that it's so bad because it's just because of the attention English teams get. Whereas I think that Barcelona team, had they been English, I know that sounds really silly, but had they been, I think that would be up there as well, and it would still be talked about a lot more than it is. So for me, no, but they definitely are one of the best football playing sides I've seen.
Yeah, I mean, no one's ever going to agree. I think you have to class them um, as one of the best sides. You know, probably not the best side of all time, but you have to class them in that category if they do go on to win it because they'll won the treble. I think as well the way they've won it, if they do win the Champions League in terms of the style of football they play, it's so interesting to watch. So I would say I don't think they're the best side of all time, but they definitely would be put in that category. I think if they go on to win the treble. So final for the final part of the show, Pearse will now give his Asian football roundup.
Yeah, so we're going to start off in the Korean League One. So on Saturday, the 3rd of June, we had Jeonbuk Hyundai FC 2, Ulsan Hyundai 0, Suwon Samsung Blue Wings 1, Suwon FC 2, Jeju United 2, Gangwon FC 2, Gwangju FC 4, Wang Steelers 2. Then Sunday, 4th of June, we had Daejeon Hana Citizen 1, Incheon United 3, Daegu FC 1, FC Seoul 0. And then we had last night, Tuesday, 6th of June, Suwon FC 1, Ulsan Hyundai 3, Wang Steelers 2, Jeju United 1. And on just before this recording, Wednesday, 7th of June, Gwangju FC 2, Suwon Blue Wings 1, Jeonbuk Hyundai Motors 1, Daegu FC 0, Gangwon FC 1, Daejeon Hana Citizen 2, Incheon United 1, FC Seoul 1. So that's leaving the table in the Korean League looking like Ulsan Hyundai on top, 17 games, 41 points. In second, you've got Pohang Steelers with 30 points, and in third place, you've got 28 points with Jeju United. And then in ninth position, we have Incheon United on 19 points. Ninth position, we've got 10th position, we've got Suwon FC on 18 points. And then at the foot of the table, you've got Gangwon FC in 11th position, 12 points. And then at the bottom of the table, we've got Suwon Samsung Blue Wings on 8 points. And bit of breaking Korean news as well. Jurgen Klinsmann named his latest squad for South Korea's upcoming friendlies against Peru and El Salvador. The big absentee is Kim Min-jae after his fallout in the last international match against Uruguay, where he blocked Son on social media platforms and claimed fatigue for his poor performances. But the short conclusion is Son Jun-ho, who we touched on a couple of weeks ago. He's got an ongoing investigation into alleged match fixing in China, where he's been in the police custody for the last 4 weeks. He plays for Shandong Taishan. So yeah, so that's like the surprise inclusions, and obviously we've got Celtic striker Oh Young-gu as well. So yeah, so the two matches will be played on the 16th of June, which they host Peru 8 o'clock kickoff Korean time, and then on the 20th they play El Salvador at 8 p.m. kickoff as well, and that they're both sold out matches already. And in terms of the Japanese league, we had on Saturday FC Tokyo 2, Yokohama F Mariners 3, Shonan Bellmare 2, Albirex Niigata 2, Nagoya Grampus 3, Cereals Osaka 1, Avispa Fukuoka 1, Gamba Osaka 2, Yokohama FC 1, Sagan Tosu 2, Kawashiro Reysol 4, Hokkaido Consadole Sapporo 5. And then on Sunday we had the 4th of June, we had Sanfrecce Hiroshima 3, Kyoto Sanga 1, Urai Diamonds 0, Kishi Antlers 0. And then last night we had a club friendly between Vissel Kobe and FC Barcelona. So that's why Vissel Kobe avoided a league fixture this weekend, because it's Iniesta's kind of farewell match in Japan where he gets to play against his former employers. Yeah, so the table's looking like the top of the table. We've got 15 games played, 33 points for Vissel Kobe. Second position, we've got Yokohama F Mariners on 33 points as well, but played 16 matches. In the third place, we've got Nagoya Grampus on 32 points. And down at the bottom of the table, it's tight as well. You've got Kyoto Sanga in 14th and Gamba Osaka in 15th, both on 13 points. And then 16th, 17th and 18th, Shonan Bellmare, Kawashiro Reysol and Yokohama FC all on 12 points. And a bit of other Korean news that I forgot to mention as well. So in Korea, it's mandatory military service that all male people have to do. And so there's the new intake. So they all go on loan to Gimcheon Sangmu in the second division. So a lot of big name players in the Korean first division then have to go on loan for a full year. So the big absentees will be Won Sang of Ulsan Hyundai, Paik Sung Ho of Jeonbuk Hyundai Motors, and Somin Kyo of Jeonbuk Hyundai Motors as well, and Kim Dae-won of Gangwon FC. So they're the main absentees, and that begins early December for the military service, which will which will take place for 1 year. So big losses there for the clubs, but yeah, so that's going to be happening in December. And to continue on with the Japanese news, Albirex Niigata midfielder Ryotaro Ito has joined St. Truden in the Belgian top flight. The 25-year-old playmaker has appeared in all 16 league games for promoted Niigata this season, scoring 7 goals. Ito signed with Urawa Reds from his high school in Okayama Prefecture in 2016 and was loaned to Mito Hollyhock and Oyata Trinita before moving to Niigata last season. A creative attacker, Ito is regularly tasked with taking free kicks and corners for Albirex. He's expected to play his final game for the club at home to Kyoto Sanga FC on June the 11th. He'll be the latest in a succession of Japanese players to join St. Truden, owned by Japanese e-commerce and internet company DMM.com. The club is also set to appoint German manager Thorsten Fink, formerly in charge of J-League's Vissel Kobe, as a new head coach from next season. Shuto Machino is also set to be Europe bound this summer as well. Multiple clubs have been taking interest in the Japanese striker. Second division side Holstein Kiel are one of a number of names mentioned, so watch this space. And obviously the breaking news as well with the Japanese squad set to play El Salvador on the 15th of June and Peru on the 20th. Both 8 o'clock kickoffs as well, is the fact is Ryo Hatate and Kyogo Furuhashi of Celtic have both been recalled for the first time since last September. Hajime Moriyasu couldn't not recall both players as Japanese lacked that creative spark in the middle of the park That's what Rio Ittihad brings to the table. Japan have an array of attacking talent at their disposal, but no one has been as clinical as Kyogo Furuhashi, who finished on 34 goals this season. Scored 27 goals in the league, which won him the Golden Boot. Also winning the Player of the Year in the process. Both players have taken the World Cup snubs personally and have used it as motivation to get a recall to the Samurai Brew. And that's all your latest Asian football news.
Thank you, Pearse, and thank you, Liam. And thank you, everyone, for listening to this episode of the Football Chuggu Podcast. This podcast will be available to listen to on the Football Chuggu YouTube channel and also on the Football Chuggu website. Thanks for listening and see you soon.
Bye-bye.